Welcome. I'm Maja Tait, your NDP candidate for Esquimalt, Saanich, Sooke. We are very honored to gather here today on the traditional and unceded territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, namely the Songhees and Kosapsum Esquimalt nations. I'm very honored to stand with the members of our strong, compassionate BC team. Laurel Collins, our MP for Victoria, Alistair McGregor, MP for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford, and Gord Johns, MP for Courtenay, Alberni. I'm grateful to be a New Democrat because we're the party of working class and everyday people. However, all over Canada, we are seeing the elite gather more wealth while the people we represent struggle to make everyday ends meet. This is why Jagmeet gives us so much hope. There is one leader that stands up to grocery giants and big pharma instead of sucking up to them. There is one leader that uses his power to help real people with like the NDP dental program and healthy school lunches. There is one leader that can stop Pierre Poilievre's cuts. He is the champion for everyday people and working folks. My friend, our leader, Jagmeet Singh.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, I'm so honored that we've got someone like Maja Tait running in this riding, an incredible voice for the people, someone who's a fierce fighter. And we're really honored that she's on our team. And I'm really honored that some of my Vancouver Island team is here today, because this is the team that's going to fight for you. We're up against some serious challenges. We've seen now recently Donald Trump has threatened to double the steel, or has doubled the steel and aluminum tariffs in response to us fighting back against this trade war that we never wanted, that is unwarranted, unjustified, and frankly illegal. And so I think times are getting even worse. There's also looming additional tariffs coming. And we know that means a lot of threat to Canadian jobs. It means that things that are already expensive might get even more expensive. But we're seeing an incredible resilience from Canadians. Canadians are defiant. As Premier Eby said, they're pissed off. That's right. They're angry. They're saying, we were good neighbors. And now our neighbors turned on us. So we're going to stand up and fight back. We're going to defend our country. And while Canadians are defending our country, they're fighting back and they're making this really bold show of defiance. They expect a government that's going to stand up for them as well. And so we have a plan. Our plan to fight back and to defend Canadians starts with protecting workers. We're a proud party founded by working people, founded by unions, founded by workers. And so first thing we need to do is make sure those workers that are standing up and fighting back know that we've got their back. And to do that, we need an employment insurance that covers all workers, one that is easy to access and covers enough of your salary so you can pay the bills. You can pay your mortgage, your rent, keep food on the table. That's step number one. We need to support workers. In addition, we also need a plan to build Canadian, to buy Canadian. So we know one of the threats, specifically here in BC, is a threat to the forestry sector that's already faced a lot of pressure because of inappropriate and frankly unjust tariffs. And now additional tariffs could threaten that sector entirely when a significant majority of what we export in terms of our lumber goes to the United States. So let's create a Build Canada economic plan where when we build infrastructure in this country, and there's federal money that's involved in building that infrastructure, let's require 100% Canadian content in those projects. Let's use BC lumber. Let's use Canadian steel and Canadian aluminum. 100% Canadian content with Canadian workers building up our economy. We know we need to build roads, bridges, and public infrastructure, public transit. Anytime we build a project, let's use 100% Canadian content and Canadian workers so we can create that more resilient economy. We also know that we've got a very significant shipbuilding sector that we've been building up in Canada. On that, let's ensure that we keep those ships being built here in Canada, and let's use Canadian steel and aluminum for those projects. We can build a more resilient economy, and workers expect that of us. So we've got to make sure we are making that a priority, that we build Canadian and buy Canadian. And finally, in a lot of these crises, what we see are big corporations finding opportunities in a crisis to gouge Canadians. We cannot let that happen at a time when it's already so expensive to buy what you need. So we got to fight back and protect consumers from price gouging from these big corporations. That is our plan. Now, what's the plan of the other leaders? It's important for folks to know. Well, Mark Carney has made his plan very clear. He has stated his plan is to cut workers at the federal level cut healthcare just to give a tax cut for millionaires. That is his plan from him, his own words. I think that is a wrong thing to do, to give a tax cut to millionaires, to cut workers at the federal level, and to cut healthcare services at a time when people are so worried and so uncertain. That is the wrong approach. And what about Pierre Poilievre? What's his plan? Well, Pierre Poilievre is the pick of Elon Musk. Elon Musk has endorsed Pierre Poilievre, and it is shown, and Pierre Poilievre has accepted that endorsement. So it shows that he is the choice of the Trump administration. The very administration that has threatened our sovereignty, threatened our workers, threatened Canadians, he's accepted that endorsement. So we can't expect him to stand up for Canadians. He is chosen by that administration as their guy in Ottawa, their guy here in Canada. And so that's why I want to reiterate, when it comes to the challenges in front of us, New Democrats are the ones that are going to fight for you. They're going to fight for working families, everyday folks. We got your back. We're in it for you. We're going to fight for you. And Mark Carney's plan, lots of red flags there. And Pierre Poilievre is not the guy that's going to stand up to Trump. He's the pick of Elon Musk. So this is the team behind me for Vancouver Island, some of the team that's going to fight hard for you. Across this country, New Democrats are committed to fighting for you and your family. You can trust us to do that. Donc, on est dans des temps difficiles. C'est clair qu'on a des menaces de Donald Trump, particulièrement les menaces de tarifs. Donald Trump a dit qu'il va doubler les tarifs sur l'aluminium et l'acier. Une étape qui va mettre en péril beaucoup de travail au Canada. On a déjà des inquiétudes par rapport à ces menaces, mais en même temps, on a vu que les Canadiens sont défiants, sont résilients. Ils veulent défendre notre pays. Donc, ils méritent d'avoir un gouvernement qui défend les Canadiens aussi. Donc, avec les menaces, on a des menaces sur des secteurs spécifiques en Colombie-Britannique, ici dans ma province. Je pense le secteur forestier et le fait qu'on a déjà des tarifs sur les bois d'œuvre et le fait que plus les tarifs vont mettre en péril les travailleurs, les emplois. Donc, on a besoin d'un plan. Donc, notre plan pour défendre le Canada commence premièrement en protégeant les travailleurs. On doit protéger les travailleurs en améliorant notre assurance emploi. On doit avoir une assurance emploi qui est plus facile à accéder et aussi un système qui couvre tous les travailleurs avec un montant adéquat pour se permettre de payer les factures. Et deuxièmement, on doit construire au Canada. Donc, pour aider le secteur forestier, avec aucun projet au niveau fédéral, on doit construire canadien avec les produits canadiens et les travailleurs canadiens. Donc, on doit utiliser les bois d'œuvre canadiens dans les projets d'infrastructure. On construit des bateaux au Canada. On doit continuer de construire ces bateaux et on doit aussi utiliser l'acier et l'aluminium canadien pour ces produits, pour ces bateaux. On doit avoir un plan économique pour devenir plus résilient face à les menaces de Donald Trump. Et finalement, on sait que dans ces temps difficiles, on a des entreprises qui vont essayer d'arnaquer les gens, d'exploiter les gens. On doit arrêter ça, on doit protéger les consommateurs. C'est quoi le plan des autres chefs? C'est important pour savoir, pour les gens de savoir c'est quoi le plan des autres chefs. Le chef du Parti libéral, Mark Carney, a déjà montré son plan. Il a dit récemment dans son discours, il veut couper les impôts pour les millionnaires, il veut couper les emplois au niveau fédéral et couper les soins de santé. Ça, c'est son plan. Pour ce temps difficile, avec plein d'incertitudes, il veut couper pour monsieur, madame, tout le monde, pour donner aux millionnaires. Ce n'est pas un bon plan. Et c'est quoi le plan de Pierre Poilievre? Pierre Poilievre est le choix de Elon Musk. Ça veut dire c'est le choix de Donald Trump. Une administration qui a menacé notre pays, attaqué notre souveraineté, attaqué nos travailleurs. Et il a accepté cet appui de Elon Musk. Donc, il n'est pas quelqu'un qui va défendre nos emplois et notre pays. Donc, ça, c'est pourquoi je dis encore, nous sommes fiers de notre équipe. C'est nous qui va défendre les Canadiens et Canadiennes. On est là pour défendre les gens. Et finalement, je veux mettre un défi pour les autres chefs. Pour ce moment, Donald Trump est un criminel. Et pour les criminels, il doit avoir une exemption pour entrer dans notre pays. Mon défi, c'est je vais m'engager qu'aucun de nos ministres dans un gouvernement néo-démocrate, va donner une exemption à Donald Trump pour entrer notre pays. On ne va pas donner une exemption pendant qu'il attaque notre pays, attaque notre souveraineté et attaque nos employés, nos travailleurs. Est-ce que les autres chefs sont prêts de faire la même chose? Est-ce que Mark Carney ou Pierre Poilievre sont prêts de faire la même chose? Ça, c'est mon défi. And I just want to wrap up with a challenge I make to other leaders. We know that right now, Donald Trump is a convicted felon. As a convicted felon, as a convicted criminal, he needs an exemption to come into our country. Normally, with dignitaries, and I use the term very loosely when I'm talking about Donald Trump, they would receive an exemption signed by a minister. My commitment is this, that no minister in a new Democrat government would sign an exemption, give Donald Trump special treatment while he's attacking our country, while he's attacking our sovereignty and attacking our workers. My challenge is, will Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre commit to do the same thing? That we will not let a convicted criminal who attacks our sovereignty into our country while those threats continue. Thank you very much. Merci. With that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Okay, we're going to start with questions on site. We'll do one question, one follow-up, starting with CTV.
Hi, I'm Yvonne. Thank you for taking my question. My first one is in regards to the talk around doubling the trade tariffs. What would be your response if you were in Washington today? How do you think this should be handled?
Well, again, just to remind Canadians, as we all know, we didn't pick this war. This wasn't a war that we wanted. This is a trade war that Donald Trump started, but we have to fight back. And right now he's doubling tariffs are going to impact steelworkers. The steelworkers have come out loud and clear saying we've got to fight back. We cannot let this continue. So we've got to attack in kind with tariffs. This is, again, a trade war we didn't want, but Donald Trump picked it with the wrong country because we're going to get our elbows up and we're going to fight back. And so that's what the steelworkers want us to fight back. But they also want to make sure that we put in place protections for those workers. And that's why I've said, I believe right now is a time to call Parliament back, put in place protections for workers, put in place an economic plan, and then let's go to an election. We're ready to go. We're ready to go, but workers need some support right now. And these workers in the steel sector, the aluminum sector, do not have that protection in place right now. So we need that done first, and then let's go to an election.
My second question is around that looming election. How concerned is your party about vote splitting, especially with the tariffs now in play? And what would your party do specifically for Vancouver Island?
Well, I tell you, I mean, we got the best Vancouver Island defenders here. You've heard and seen these great MPs fighting for the issues that matter most to the people of Vancouver Island, protecting the environment here, protecting the water, protecting folks when it comes to the cost of living and investing in housing. You know, the priorities that people have on Vancouver Island are the priority of my team. What I would say to folks right now who are wondering who to vote for, who has been there for you? Who is willing to fight for you? And at a time as difficult as what we find ourselves in right now, do you want a banker who has made his career about making lots of money for the super rich? Or do you want someone who's been a fighter in the trenches for you and your family? Do you want someone that's going to give you a voice in Ottawa? Someone that's going to be there for you to fight for you and your family? I think the choice is really clear. If you want someone that's going to fight to make life more affordable, to defend our public healthcare system, that's us, that's New Democrats. We have shown again and again, when you elect us, people benefit, people win. When New Democrats are there for you, you get a better future. We bring in things like dental care and pharmacare and help for workers, protections for workers. So, you know, the choice is an important choice in this election. The plan of Mark Carney has been really clear. He's made it clear who he's on, whose side he's on. He wants he wants tax cuts for millionaires, but he wants to cut your healthcare and cut jobs for working people. That's a bad plan. And Pierre Poilievre wants to cut even more. He wants to cut more, and it's going to cost you a lot. So you got Mr. Cut or Mr. Cut More. That is not a fair future for Canadians. You deserve better, and my plan is to give you better.
Okay, we're going to go to Mary from Island Social Trends next.
Hi, my question is about workers, and you said that about 60% of Canadian workers are covered by EI, but the rest are not.
The other way around, 40% are covered, 60% are not covered.
Well, that's even worse then.
Yeah.
Consultants, gig workers, and people who have small businesses, they're not covered by EI and people don't think of it as a program for them. How will your campaign shift that paradigm in people's minds, and so that they'll see more clearly how the system hasn't been working for a lot of workers for many years?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So this is exactly what we mean when we talk about the fact that EI is not up to the challenge. At the time when it came in, it was an incredibly forward-thinking idea. Again, New Democrats were the ones that fought to bring in this type of protection. And now, though, with the reality of work for a lot of people, as you mentioned, rightly so, there's people working in different ways, contract workers, independent workers. Sadly, there's a lot of gig workers. These workers are not covered by employment insurance. And we saw during the pandemic that employment insurance was not up to the task of supporting workers. So that's why we had the direct benefits that New Democrats fought for people. Now we're saying, given the realities that we're up against with the uncertainty of economic times, we can't continue with an EI that's not there for all workers. So we want all workers, including independent contractors, independent workers, supported by an EI program. It has to be there for everybody. If you are someone that provides services to the United States as the main bulk of your business, you're going to be impacted by these tariffs. And we want to make sure that those workers, those folks that are going to be threatened and impacted by these tariffs have a program that's in place for them. And that's what we meant by expanding it to cover all workers.
South Vancouver Island has seen a stronghold of the NDP for several elections now, starting around in the 2011 election and forward. So 6 of the 7 MPs right now on the island are NDP. How do you maintain that stronghold in this coming election? And where do you see the Conservatives feeling that they have some room to make inroads on the island?
Well, we're going to fight everywhere across this country. We want people to know you can count on us. In Vancouver Island, we take nothing for granted. The team behind me is out there door knocking, meeting with people, hearing your concerns, and we've shown you that we fight for you in Ottawa. And so we're going to continue to do exactly that. Fight for you and put you and your family first. For us, the choice is clear. If the choice is between CEOs and billionaires or working class people, we choose working class people. We choose the middle class. And we've shown that with the actions we've taken. So we're going to continue to do that across the island. And for the Conservatives, folks need to know the cost of Conservatives, the cost of Pierre Poilievre. He wants to cut pensions for seniors. He did it when he was in government. He voted in favor of cutting pensions for seniors. And it meant that seniors had to work longer and get less. That was under Stephen Harper when Pierre Poilievre was in cabinet. And he's promised to cut the contributions to pensions. Well, everyone knows when you cut the contributions to something, you cut the benefit. So that's going to be a cut to pensions for seniors. He wants to cut healthcare. Right now, people are telling me on the island, across the country, we actually need to invest in healthcare. We need more healthcare workers, not less. Well, he wants to cut it. He wants to cut childcare. Well, here in BC, we led the way with our pilot project around childcare because it makes such a difference in people's lives. It's not just the right thing to do. It's also an economic driver. It increases productivity. It is good for the economy. It's good for our country. He wants to cut that as well. And the cost of these cuts is massive. So for the people on Vancouver Island, don't let Pierre Poilievre get away with these cuts that he wants to do. It's going to hurt working class people. And I'll remind you, why he wants to do this is to give to his billionaire buddies. He wants to cut from you. It's going to cost you, and he wants to give to billionaires. That is not the solution for the people of Vancouver Island. It's frankly not the solution for the entire country. We're going to fight for you and build a brighter future.
Okay, we're going to go to Black Press next.
Sure.
Hello, I'm Bailey. I was just curious if you could speak to your thoughts on BC's retaliation to U.S. tariffs so far. Do you feel like it's enough, especially compared to what Ontario's been doing for the past few days, for example?
Well, I've seen some really great steps being taken by premiers across the country. I think that the decision to take alcohol off the shelves for BC Liquor, it was a strong move. We're seeing the repercussions of that in the States as well. So those are good moves. There's more to be had. Premier Eby has talked about cutting off the flow of critical minerals. I agree with that step. That would directly target, folks know critical minerals are obviously used in batteries, and that's something that directly targets Elon Musk, one of the billionaire buddies that's closely seen with Donald Trump. So yeah, we want to see more steps taken. This is a fight, and it's a fight with an economic bully. And the only thing that this bully understands is strength, and we got to show strength. So premiers are showing that strength. We're showing that strength at the federal level. Let's keep going. Canadians want us to have our elbows up. Let's keep our elbows up. Let's fight and let's win.
Okay, we're going to go to questions on Zoom next.
We will go ahead and start with Ashley Burke with the CBC. Please go ahead.
Mr. Singh, President Trump said he was placing a 50% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum. Now Doug Ford says Trump might reconsider that. How does Canada deal with this level of chaos?
It is chaos. What Donald Trump is creating is chaos. He's also an economic arsonist. He is setting fire to his own economy, not just us, he's hurting Canadians. He's also hurting his own economy. There's talks about a recession happening in the United States solely created by Donald Trump's trade war that he started himself for no reason, also completely unprovoked, out of nowhere. So he's setting fire to his own economy. He's hurting Americans. He's hurting Canadians. This is chaos. And so a big part of why my plan includes protecting workers is workers need some security in this time of uncertainty. They need to know that we've got their back. So that's why we need an EI that is there for people, supports in place for workers that are targeted and hit by these tariffs. That's what the steel workers are calling for as well. I echo that call. Targeted supports for sectors that are targeted, that are impacted. We also need our own plan. Because of the chaos created by Donald Trump, we need some economic certainty in our own country. And one of the ways we do that is by saying, well, we are going to build in our country the things that we need. If there was projects that were slated for down the road, let's accelerate them and start them now. If there's any projects in our country that we can build, let's build them using Canadian content and Canadian workers. Let's build a more resilient economy. To tackle the chaos created by Donald Trump, we need more stability and predictability in our own country. And that means looking inwards and building the things we need in our own country with Canadian content, Canadian workers, having a more resilient and durable economy in our own country.
And do you think it was the right move for Premier Ford to move forward with targeting electricity going to the US on Monday, which led to Trump coming out today saying he'd impose a 50% tariff on aluminum and steel?
Yeah, I mean, it's rare that you're going to hear me agree with Doug Ford. I disagree with him on a lot of things. I think, frankly, he was not good for the healthcare and education in Ontario. But I can tell you on this, he's doing the right thing. He's fighting back in the right way. We have to use all the tools we have to inflict as much pain on Donald Trump as possible. Donald Trump needs to know that this was the bad fight that he picked, that it's going to hurt him. And we're already seeing the impacts of that. We know he's someone that loves to follow the stock market. Well, the stock market took a massive hit under his presidency because of his decisions. And the more the American people see that, the more pressure will be on him, that he has chosen to take a step that hurts Canadians, that hurts Americans. It is wrong. And we need to make sure that that decision, the impact of that decision is being felt by him.
We'll now go to David Baxter with CP. Please go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Singh. Earlier today, Elizabeth May was calling for a wartime cabinet, as she was calling it. She's written to Mark Carney with such a request, saying she wants to see, Canada have a united front through the election with a cabinet made up of members of all parties. So people are campaigning against Canada's own interest. Would that be something the NDP would be open to?
Well, I've called for something very specific. During the pandemic, we met and we passed protections for workers and for people. We need to do that again. And so that's what I said. We've got to recall Parliament and get in place some supports for those workers, get in place an economic plan where we build Canadian by Canadian so we can create some stability in our own economy. And then let's go to an election. So I'm reiterating that call. I think it's the right thing to do. We are ready for an election, but workers, Canadians, people need some supports in place. Let's get that done first, and then let's go to an election.
So that would be a no to the idea of having a cabinet made up of reps from all parties?
I'm not opposed to whatever approach makes the most sense, but ultimately my outcome that I want to see is for us to pass protections for workers. I'm really focused on the outcome. And the outcome I want to see is a worker that right now is saying, hey, I'm going to lose my job. Someone in the forestry sector here in BC is saying if there's going to be more tariffs on a sector that's already been hard hit with tariffs, does that mean I got nowhere to go for work and I'm not going to be able to pay my bills? For people in the steel sector and the aluminum sector that are now hearing that the tariffs are going to be doubled, and they're thinking, well, we already saw some of our work shortage happening because of the threats. I met with those workers in Hamilton, one of the steel town capitals of our country. Those workers are really worried. And so they deserve that we've got supports in place for them. That's really my focus. Workers need supports. Canadians need to know we've got an economic plan where we build Canadian by Canadian. And then let's go to election after that. That's really what I want to see happen.
Ensuite, nous avons Olivier Ferrand-Boisset avec TVA. C'est à vous.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Singh. Je me demandais
Bonjour.
si c'était important pour vous que Monsieur Carney, qui n'est pas élu, obtienne rapidement un mandat de la part des Canadiens.
Pour moi, ma priorité, c'est les travailleurs. Ma priorité, c'est monsieur, madame, tout le monde. Donc, ce que je pense que le Premier ministre doit faire tout de suite, rappeler le Parlement et passer un ensemble de mesures qui protègent les travailleurs et puis un plan économique où on achète les produits canadiens et construire au Canada avec les travailleurs canadiens. Donc, on a besoin de ces deux étapes immédiatement et puis après, on peut avoir une élection.
Et combien de temps vous seriez prêt à passer au Parlement pour avoir ces débats-là? Est-ce qu'on parle de jours? Est-ce qu'après une semaine, c'est trop long? C'est quoi la fenêtre qui serait raisonnable selon vous?
Je pense que, comme on a fait pendant la pandémie, on peut le faire rapidement. On l'a déjà fait, donc on peut le faire encore. Mais jusqu'au moment qu'on a une amélioration de la science emploi pour protéger les travailleurs, un plan économique pour investir au Canada, créer des bons emplois. Après ça, on peut aller tout de suite dans une élection.
So this concludes our press conference. Ceci conclut notre conférence de presse. Thank you. Merci.
Merci. Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good. Yeah, thanks for the